I don't think I would have been able to get a 9 if I didn't do this. I know that sounds really bad, but at the end of the day it did get me the 9, so I don't know how I would have passed my GCSEs without it. Hey guys, so you've clicked on this video for a reason. You want to know how to get a grade 9. Let's just cut all of the rubbish and I'm going to tell you straight how to get a grade 9 starting from now. This video is going to be split into 4 parts or 4 stages. Stage 1 is to establish your priorities. Stage 2 is about timetabling and scheduling. Stage 3 is about effective cramming, and stage 4 is about exam questions. So before we dive right in, be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and comment down below if you want any more videos relating to exams, GCSEs, A-levels, etc. Let's get into it. Probably want to get a cup of tea and get a pen and paper because this video is going to go into depth, so I hope you're ready for it. Let's jump right in. Stage 1, establish priorities. What I mean by this is that you want to know what you don't know. What are the subjects that you are the worst at? So for my example, I'm going to say that I find biology the hardest, so this is how my list would look like. And then from there, for each subject, you want to note down the topics in the order of how hard you find them. So let's talk about physics. Let's say that I found electricity the hardest. I would put that at the top. You just want to write down all of the topics that are in your exam, and you can use the specification to help you for this. So to help you find which topics you're the weakest in, I really find that using your mocks is very helpful. Mocks are not just from your teachers just to stress you out, they're actually helpful for you. So look through your mocks and look at where you're consistently losing marks, because that's where you're the weakest and that's where you need to prioritize. I know it's very easy to revise things that you like, but at one point you actually need to stop. Like, if it's much, why are you still revising cell biology? You know what's inside of a cell, so why are you still, like, what are you hoping to find out? There's nothing new. Like, go to the topics you don't understand, even though it's uncomfortable and you have to use your brain more. That's what you need to do if you want to get a good grade. So the focus is on the topics that you're scared of, that you are very anxious that will come up on the exam, because at the end of the day you shouldn't be scared of anything. You should be ready. Like, you should walk into that exam hall ready for anything. That is the key to getting a good grade, because if there's a topic that will just catch you out and you'll lose all your marks in it, then that's not safe. Like, that is not gonna guarantee you a good grade at the end. So once you have each subject and topic ranked, we're going to move on to stage 2. Stage 2 is timetabling and scheduling. This is arguably one of the most important things that you have to do to get a good grade in your GCSEs, because at the end of the day you only have a certain amount of time and you can't be wasting your time doing things you already know, doing ineffective revision methods, just wasting time. Like, you actually don't have time, especially at this point. So let's talk about timetabling. So for your timetabling, you want to timetable it so that your subjects that are the worst are timetabled the most. So that's why we rank the subjects before, because we want to know what we have to be spending the most time on. The most important subject for this timetabling, I would say, is maths, because if you're bad at maths, like, no matter how much you read that textbook, it's not going to change anything. Maths is about practice until you get tired of it. Repeat after me: practice. So what you want to do is you want to schedule in maths for almost every single day if you can. I know this sounds like really bad, like, but at the end of the day, maths is not about luck, it's not about cramming, it's about how to answer the question, and you only know how to answer the question if you've answered hundreds like that question before. So what I recommend for this is I recommend that you do maths every morning or every other morning. One thing that helped me be consistent with this is that I used to go to secondary school 1 hour early. I know that sounds really bad, but at the end of the day it did get me the 9s. So when you go early, you can go to a quiet room, and then this forces you to do the work. Like, you can't really escape. If you go to school 1 hour early and you spend the hour on your phone, like there's actually no point. Like, I don't think you would be motivated to do that. So that's something that can help you be consistent with revising in the morning, especially maths, because once you do maths you can just get out of the way. It doesn't really require like you to cram anything or you to know anything. It just requires your natural ability to work out the questions. So when it comes to the actual timetable, you should make one in Google Sheets. Like, don't make it too complicated. Like, you don't need to use all this Notion. I know it's pretty, but at the end of the day, like, come on, let's actually focus on what actually matters, which is revising. I will link one down below, the one that I used, and you just have to fill it in, and this is how you fill it in. So I'm going to show you like an example timetable here, and we have our timetable here. It's currently blank. You want to fill in the time that you have school, because obviously you can't revise whilst you're in school. And then when it comes to a day, a lot of people ask me how much should I be revising each day, but it's not really anything. Like, I know you're tired of hearing it. There's no specific time of how long you should revise, because it's different for each person. But what I would personally personally say, like, don't kill me for this one, is maximum is 3 to 4 hours a day. Even that, you're stretching it. Like, if you do that every single day until your exam, I don't know how your mental health is going to be, so don't blame me for that. But that's my maximum. That's what I would schedule in, like, the hopes of doing, but it doesn't have to be exactly 3 hours. So each day I would put probably an hour or 30 minutes before school, and then the 2 hours or the 3 hours after school. So once you do that, you can schedule it in. Each subject should take up like 1 hour 30 minutes once it's after school, so you can actually get into revising, because I don't think you can revise 4 subjects in one day. Like, when you get into the revision mode, you can't just switch that over in 25 minutes. It's not effective. So I would recommend study sessions of like 1 hour 30 minutes, and you can use the Pomodoro technique in these sessions. Or if it's like a time paper, you're gonna have to do it like the straight 1 hour 30 minutes. So once you've done that, your timetable should look something like this, and that will pretty much help you to know what you're going to do when you get back home or when you start the day, instead of wasting time with thinking, what subjects do I do today, because that's not effective. You're not going to cover everything you want to if you do it that way. When you have a subject come up in your timetable, you want to look at this ranked list, and you want to go through every single topic in that order. And then once you've done a topic, you don't want to just leave that topic alone, because that's not going to make you memorize it for the exam. You want to go back to that topic in your next study session for that subject, and you just want to test yourself on it. So if it was science, let's say I'm going to learn cell biology one day, the next session I'll do like a 20-minute exam question booklet from physics and maths tutor just to test what I know, and then after that I'll go to the next topic in that same study session. This reinforces what you already know and what you don't know, so that you can highlight your weaknesses and you can just improve over time before your exam. So now stage 3 is very important. Like, I don't know how I would have passed my GCSEs without it, but stage 3 is effective cramming. I know everyone says cramming is so bad. Is okay. Like, if you do 11 subjects, there's no way that you're gonna know all of that content in your mind all the time. Like, at some point you just have to cram a little bit. Like, I'm not saying leave your revision to the day before, because that's not going to end well, but what I'm saying is you need to effectively cram. So let's get into what this means. If you're watching this and you have a few more months before your exams, like these are the crucial months, it's time to put down the textbook. I'm sorry to say it, but it's time to put down the textbook, because that textbook is not going to follow you in the exam. It's time to stop making the pretty notes. Put those mild liners down. It's actually okay, because I'm sorry to break it to you, but at the end of the day, what you're marked on for GCSEs is what's inside here. Not what's inside your little book, not what's inside your textbook, but what's in here. So what you want to do is make sure everything is in here. You want to basically just download this textbook onto your brain in time for the exams. And I know that sounds very overwhelming, but this is how you're going to do it. So I'm going to be talking about certain types of subjects. I'm going to categorize this into maths, science-based subjects, and essay-based subjects. If you guys want more videos about certain subjects, then let me know down in the comments. And anyways, let's get into it. So let's talk about maths. There's absolutely no reason as to why you should be reading a textbook for maths, especially at this point. When it comes down to it, maths is always about practice. Maths should be purely exam questions and practice papers, and you want to make sure that all of these are timed, because at the end of the day, the 2 reasons people fail maths is because they either don't know how to answer the question, or if you're like me, you make the silliest mistakes. Like, you make these mistakes and then you read them over and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I do this? Because if you didn't do that, then you would have got the full marks. So you need to be able to know how to do the questions under time pressure. You want to be able to do so many maths papers and so many maths questions that you're starting to get tired of the same questions coming up, because that's what's going to happen in their real exam. There's only so many questions that they can ask you. Like, they're just going to be the same thing but with different numbers, different situations, different words, like especially in those worded questions. If you boil it down, it's always going to be like the same thing. So what you want to do is just practice all the time if you can. And one of the most important things about this practice is that when you get something wrong, don't just write in the wrong answer. You want to be able to do that question in like 2 days time and know how to do it without the mark scheme. Sometimes the mark scheme can be hard to understand, especially in maths. Like, they just write things down, like they don't really explain how they got to it. So if you're confused, go to a teacher, and if that teacher won't answer you for some reason, go to another teacher. I'll put the best places to find exam questions here, but you also want to just mostly focus on your exam board. I know that AQA and Edexcel are very different in terms of the paper. I think AQA has some multiple choice questions and Edexcel does not even have one bit of that. So you want to make sure you know what kind of exam questions are going to come up. Let's move on to my favorite, which is science-based subjects. So I got all 9s in all of my sciences. That includes biology, chemistry and physics, but the advice that I'm going to give you will help you whether you're doing triple science or double science, because it all boils down to the same thing. Sciences is where effective cramming is very important, because you need to know almost everything that's on the specification so that nothing throws you off. Something that they really like to do in the sciences, especially biology, is mask something that you know as like a scenario that is very new. I think in my GCSE, like some of the things that came up, I was like, were we taught this? You were taught it, but they just want you to apply what you know in a different kind of way. So what you want to do is go on the specification, go on the topics and look at all of the points that they put for each topic, and you want to know whether you're confused about something, whether you don't know something, and you want to mark these down, because this is the most important thing. You want to focus on what you don't know. And for these topics, you can make flashcards. If you're too close to the exam season, like there's no point making flashcards. Lots of people make flashcards and you can just search them online. Just make sure it's the same exam board and then you're good to go. You do not want to make the mistake of making flashcards or using flashcards for everything. There's some things that you just never forget, and there's no point of making flashcards or like trying to memorize things that you already know. Like it's just a waste of time. You have like 8, 9 other subjects. You can't be wasting time on doing things you already know. However, flashcards is not what I recommend the most for sciences. What I really recommend, I don't think I would have been able to get a 9 if I didn't do this, is exam questions consistently. Even if it's the old spec, even if you finish all of the new spec and you have to go back to the old spec, exam questions, because at the end of the day, the same questions are asked every single year. It's just the way that they phrase it that is different. My favorite resource for exam questions for science has to be Physics and Maths Tutor. I think they have like every exam board. It shouldn't be that hard to find your exam board and the topic that you want to go over. The key is to do so many of these questions that nothing throws you off. Now let's talk about essay-based subjects, and these were the bane of my existence. Like I actually hated them, but the worst one had to be history. Let's not even get into it, but let me tell you about essay-based subjects. Although knowing content is very important for these subjects, you really need to focus on how to actually answer a question, because it's all well and good to know everything about a character, but if you can't answer the question, then you're not going to get a grade 9. So my key tip for this is to read exemplar essays, whether it's from the exam board itself, whether it's from videos on YouTube where people read them out, because what you want to do is start to kind of copy how they structure their questions, how they phrase things, how they answer the question, and how they get those marks. You want to watch so many videos and read so many essays that your own writing starts to replicate this kind of quality. And then to put this into practice, you want to start to write essays under time conditions, and then you can give them to your teacher and have them mark it and give you feedback on how to improve. Now to memorize the content, what you want to focus on for essay-based subjects is blurting. If you haven't heard of blurting before, it's basically when you write down everything you know about a topic on a piece of paper. Once you finish with that, you get your notes and then you fill in the gaps so that you can continue to do this until you eventually know everything on the paper. And then to summarize topics, what you want to do is make a mind map for each topic and each character so that you can base your blurting on this. Now let's move on to the final stage, which is stage 4, and it's exam questions and how to maximize your use of them so that you can get a grade 9. Now after all I've told you, when it comes to like 1 month before your exam, your sole source of revision should be exam questions. And now how do you actually use exam questions to get you a grade 9? Because I feel like everyone uses exam questions, but not everyone gets the best of grades, and it's all in how you actually use these exam questions to progress your learning and to progress your ability to answer these questions. So when you do exam questions, you want to focus on why you got something wrong or why you lost marks, because that's what truly matters. And there's many reasons why you can lose marks and why you get things wrong. So here are the different reasons, and here's what you can do to not make this mistake again. So if you lost a mark because you don't know the content, then you need to go back to your flashcards for that topic and keep doing them until it sticks. After you've done that, you want to go back to that same question maybe 2 days later, or you can do another set of questions on that same topic just to reinforce what you've learned. If it's because you missed the keywords in the mark scheme, it's because sometimes you lose marks even though you basically wrote the same answer, but you didn't include certain words that you had to include. So if this is the case, what you want to do is basically study that mark scheme and memorize it. But if you memorize it, you want to first understand it so that it can stick for longer, because if you memorize something without any understanding of why they use that word, then you're never going to progress. You just have to understand why as well. Now, the final reason that you can lose a mark is because you literally just made a mistake. This can be because you read the question wrong, or you made a mistake in your working out, or I don't know, like something just happened along the line of you answering the question that gave you the wrong answer. If this is the mistake, then you want to highlight this mistake. Whenever you're coming back to this type of question, you want to make sure you have that mistake in your head. When it comes to fractions, if you know that at the end of the question you never simplify it to like its simplest form, then whenever you see a question involving fractions, just keep remembering at the back of your head, simplify it, simplify it, simplify it, so that you actually get to the right answer. And finally, when you don't understand the mark scheme, which is often the case for a lot of subjects, especially for me it was physics, like sometimes I'll just be reading the mark scheme over and over and over, and I'm just like, what are they actually saying? How, like, I'm not really understanding. So what you want to do in that case, you want to go to a teacher and then have them explain it to you, and you want to just let them explain it to you until you understand. Even if after they explain it to you you don't understand, just tell them that, because it's better to be embarrassed now than to be embarrassed in the exam, or to feel regretful in the exam when you come across that same kind of question and you don't know how to answer it. So to summarize, to get a grade 9 in any subject, what you want to do is establish your priorities, timetable and schedule those priorities in a certain way. After you do that, you want to do some effective cramming, and then finally, to seal the deal, you want to do some exam questions. And that's pretty much it, guys. I really hope this video helped you, and again, let me know if you want any more videos on GCSEs, exam season, A-levels, anything, and I'll get to making them. I wish you the best of luck for your exams, and I'll see you next time. Bye.